Next is the installation of business and user applications, productivity applications, and so on. There are a number of standard applications that every system should have, and so we're going to start off with those boilerplate applications. Whether you feel that you can use them or not at this point in time is irrelevant, because even if you don't want to use them right now, there's enough capacity on the machine for you to install them and have them sitting there ready to be used at such a time as you need them. So the first one that's worth talking about is hybrid desktop. The hybrid desktop was referred to in the prior videos during the early part of the installation. We in fact used the cut down version of this to do the installation of the initial firmware just after assembling the machine. You run the hybrid desk station using a HDMI cable plugged into a monitor and the HDMI cable plugged into one of the two HDMI ports in the back of the machine. Incidentally, some QNAP models have 3 HDMI outputs, allowing one of those to be 4K video streaming. So the HDMI monitor plugged into the back of the machine turns the NAS itself, into a PC. The PC hybrid station software is an application that comes up with a menu system at the beginning, and when you click on the menu you can run this very same hybrid desktop, this QTS application. But you can also run Kodi and Plex, which are media servers, and a number of other applications that come with a hybrid desktop. So it is quite a useful tool. It's something that you should install. There is no reason why you wouldn't, and then it's available for when you need it. The other one that's important and worth discussing now is Linux Station down here. Linux Station is an Ubuntu, I think. Is it? No. It's another. It's a form of Linux that runs on through that same mechanism. It runs through the HDMI monitor connected to the back of the machine. And when you have Linux Station enabled, you must disable Hybrid Station. So you can only have one of the two running at the same time, which is a little inconvenient, and I have noticed at times switching back and forth between the two isn't always as straightforward as you think. So unless you genuinely need to use the NAS box as a Linux PC, bearing in mind there are other options that you can do. You can use Linux. You can quite easily use Container Station to install a Linux container and then run Linux using a console from any of your PCs on your network. So you don't really need to install this. If you want to run Internet of Things software or open source Unix or Linux based software rather, you can use the Docker containers to do that. There's no reason to run Linux Station. So I haven't come across a reason for needing it, and I find that the hybrid desktop is a lot more useful to have installed and available at all times. So we'll just move across the list here. If I click on that icon, that little arrow icon, it'll bring me to Video Station, which I can then install. Okay. Just to explain what happened then, by clicking on the icon, it's starting to do the installation. So that installation is running now as we speak. If I click on Application Center, that pulls up that very same window that appeared a moment ago. And Application Center is a tool from which you select applications to download and install. Video Station has been installed and is now ready to use. That's good news. So that's fantastic. As you can see, my messages are filling up with events that are happening. It also tells me that there are 2 applications that need updating, so I'll update all and get that out of the way as well. You can see when you update an application what actually happens. The Linux operating system underneath all this is first downloads and then starts. You'll see this icon change to updating in a moment. There it is, updating, and this one's updating as well because it's already downloaded. It all happens fairly quickly. and then there's an icon to actually open that particular application. So if I wanted to open Download Station, here it is. I agree to terms. This is what I mean. It's good to install a lot of these standard applications and just have them sitting there ready to be used. Now, on the left-hand side of the application center, we'll get Hybrid Station started first, and then we'll do Surveillance Station. Notice that started control panel. You have to agree to terms. It's checked. Now, this is what I was saying before. When you run Hybrid Station, it has a lot of other applications that appear on the desktop. It basically installs a Hybrid Station version of these applications. I'd be inclined to install them all, with the exception of Plex at this stage. You can install Plex later. If you install Plex now, it takes over the HTTP port 80, which then gives you unnecessary complications. Not unnecessary complications. It just means that I would have to explain a few more things to you when you're installing when you're connecting this through your router to the internet, and also if you're trying to install an SSL security certificate. I won't bore you with the details. Just for the time being, turn it off because it's very easy to install later. Off it goes. It's doing the install now. We'll just wait for that to finish. Pause. Another thing that's really useful is that it just appeared here as the video was paused. A little message appears and saying that it's just started to download. That message there appears. It's just started to download, and when it finishes downloading, it'll tell you that it's finished downloading. So if you're sitting at the console, you start to build up an understanding of how the NAS works. It downloads applications from servers in the cloud, and then it applies those changes to your machine. A lot of the open source applications work this way. If this is a picture of the cloud in the world, you have all these developers all over the world that are developing software applications for many purposes. And these days, the quality of the software they're producing is very high. The usability is very high. And there's a lot of competition. So you can take advantage of that, because these developers, and there's millions of them around the world, are creating open source applications that you can take advantage of. Now, when they finish creating an application, they load it up into one of the many servers that are available, like GitHub and Docker. Docker has services for holding applications that are converted to Docker containers, and any number of other open source development platforms host the application for them. And then when you fire up your little NAS in your home or in your office, and click on the App Center to install an application, what it does is it goes to those servers, picks off the latest version of that software and brings it down and installs it in your machine. In a similar way, when there's a new version of that application, this developer over here somewhere else in the world will send down to these servers and notice that there's an update. And your little clever NAS detects that there's an update and then tells you that there's a new version ready for you to install. And you install it and take advantage of that. So in a sense, you're always using the latest version of software and getting continual updates for free. So getting back to the hybrid desktop installation, that's still running, and it does take quite a while to run. So this might be a good opportunity for me to pause the video and for you, oh, it's finished. I was going to get a coffee, but never mind. We press on. There it is. Started to download, and one of those messages would have been in relation to it completing. Installed and ready to use. Crikey, sometimes YouTube has been installed and ready to use. Oh, okay. It's now installing the applications inside the at the hybrid desk station. So if you remember, when I clicked to install it, it had a number of checkboxes for me to tick, and I unchecked Plex, but I left all the others enabled. So it's now in the process of installing those. Just while this is continuing, I'll point out another thing. As you can see, the applications that are being installed on here, Hybrid Desk Station, starting to download File Station, which is an Explorer type utility, Facebook, which we know of, Clementine, Chrome, Spotify, Superflux, Skype was in here somewhere. So you may be asking, well, why would I want these things? What am I going to use them for? As you remember, the Hybrid Desk Station is the console that plugs in to your HDMI. The monitor plugs into the HDMI output on the back of the NAS. Now, if you use one of those HDMI outputs to output to a monitor, and then perhaps another one to plug into one or more TVs, if you have 3 outputs, then 3 HDMI devices, each of those devices can run this HD station and then use these applications. So firstly, it's really useful to be able to nominate, to have all these applications installed. Secondly, HD Station will expect you to log on using the credentials that you've been allocated for the machine, so that's your username and password, and each user will have their own operating environment, their own settings, their own Facebook and Twitter and Spotify settings and video station settings for their unique preferences and their user ID and passwords. So it's their own environment running on the NAS. Okay, but the other more important thing is that being plugged into the TV, or any of the HDMI devices, you can then use a device like this one here. I'm just looking at the SMICBox site under Shop. One of these two ones here, the wireless keyboards. This is the better of the two. This one's still a very good device, but this is quite a nice. It's backlit. And the other advantage of it is on the other side of it, it has a proper remote control. So you can actually use it as a remote control and as a keyboard. And use this device instead. Now, when you're using it as a remote control, it's a remote control. When you turn it over, you can use it as a keyboard to navigate the HD station over here. So then from the comfort of your lounge, you have basically a PC inside the TV that you can use at any time to surf the web, to use Spotify, Facebook, or whatever else, and then flick back to using the TV as a TV. The other really good thing about the HDMI station connected to your TV is that it has Kodi in it and Plex. Now this is a media streamer, so in this case, by connecting your NAS by HDMI to the TV, you then automatically inside your TV get the Kodi media streaming, which has got thousands of downloads and thousands of tools and facilities. It's very feature rich. So a lot of great TV shows get onto that. It has a lot more content than Plex and a lot more content than Netflix and Stan. So and it's free, all free. So it's a viable alternative to paid services, or if you prefer, you can still obviously use your paid services in Netflix and have this as an additional option when you're trying to find that movie that you can't find anywhere else, or that TV show. So now it's completed installing all those applications. We'll just do one more important thing. We're going to install media streaming, so we'll go down to Recommended in the App Center. And basically I would pretty much install everything. Let's go through and look at it as we go through. So Cloud Drive. Before we go to the recommended, let's go to the QTS Essentials. These are the things that you would always install. Connect to Cloud Drive. Okay, get that underway. Cloud Link. I'm going to put that in volume 4. Container station, I'm going to put that into volume 2. Download station. Now I acted hastily there when I connected to installed in Connect to Cloud Drive. I put it into System. I don't want to do that. Connect to Cloud Drive is basically a mechanism to allow users to have bring in and backup and restore and sync from external cloud providers like Google. So I want to put that into the PC LAN because it's more of a use. I want the data stored in the drive that the users will be using most frequently, and more importantly, the type of backup regime that I want for the files that it produces is it's pretty much the same as the files produced by PC users on the local area network. So it makes sense to put it there because it's the same sort of thing. The same sort of thing. Container stations installed, download stations installed. Now the next thing is proxy server and help desk. Now help desk is really useful because it's a tool to if you have a problem with the NAS and you want QNAP to assist you, you can log into your QTS console here and create the support call from your own NAS. You don't have to go and find a website. You can create the support call. It collects the serial number and the model number and all the things that you'd have to dig around and try and find the machine and look at the back of it to get. It just which uses your time and effort and is also frustrating. If you've got a problem with the NAS, you just want to click a button and put in the nature of the problem and have them attend to it. This helps desk software is to do exactly that. Now, Node Station is a strange one. It's quite a good piece of software, very useful, but it fits into the category of notes, and there are a number of cloud applications which do a similar job. So I'm going to put it in the PC LAN because the type of information it produces is notes and diary and logging. It's a bit of a cross between SharePoint and Microsoft Notes. So we'll put it into the LAN volume, which means that its data will be stored with local area network files and backed up in the same sort of schedule. Next is the proxy server. This is an essential one. This will make a great deal of difference to the performance of your network by caching commonly used pages, and then each of the users connect to the internet from their PCs through the proxy server of that office, and it greatly improves response time, but also increases the security by masking each of the PCs IP addresses and MAC information from people who would be hackers trying to spoof your network and find out who the users are and what the PCs are and so on. So we'll get that on the way. QCenter is the next one. That's for maintenance and support. That's a system kind of thing, so we'll put it in system. My QNAP Cloud SSL certificate, we can leave that for the moment. Media streaming we should install, and because the multimedia folder is for whatever reason installed in them as one of the directories in the main volume, we will have to use that main volume one as well. Virtualization station is a system tool. Even though we have a VM volume, the actual software itself needs to be installed somewhere. So sorry, it doesn't ask you for a volume. You get to choose the volume when you're creating your virtual machines. Next is the LPT VPN services. We'll install that. Again, this is another one of the examples of the things you don't necessarily need to use immediately, but put it in, get it installed, and then the system will keep it at the latest level. QSearch is a great tool. It'll allow you to find files. Some of these volumes are pretty big, in this case 10 terabytes of storage. It's an indexing system to help you find things quickly. Again, it's a system tool, so I'll use the system volume number 1. As I said before, we're going to leave out Linux Station because at this stage it's probably something you won't use, and if you needed to have access to a Linux console, you can also always use a container. Install Surveillance Station. So as you can see, I'm downloading and installing many of these applications at the same time, and that's quite okay. It's a multi-user Linux machine and will be quite comfortable doing that and putting information in the right place. While that's happening, we can go across to recommended. Whether you want to use it immediately or not, I'd always encourage you to install WordPress if you're familiar with it, or Joomla or Drupal as a web application, and that is under business, I think. I can't find it quickly, so I'll just go into all applications, press Word, and there it is, install. Whenever you install WordPress, you also need to install PHP admin. Now WordPress is installed, we should immediately go across and look for PHP admin. It's now called PHP my admin. There it is, install that. Again, it's volume 1 because it's a web function. Next is backup versioning. Backup versioning, install that. Under entertainment, I'd always install Kodi, the Codex pack, and Photo Station. Even for business, they're useful. And there's the other one, Video Station. It's worth installing. The Ocean KTV Karaoke is perhaps not what you would use in business. Uses the microphones. You can have 2 microphones plugged into the back of a TS-453. Super Sync is obviously optional. It's a device to allow you to manage and repair iTunes libraries. So using the Super Sync on your Mac, for example, you can synchronize your iTunes library from any of the PCs and devices back into the NAS, into a folder in the NAS, and then this tool will help manage that and make minor repairs and stream things, allow remote access and a variety of other things. This is a USB cam is a plug into Chrome to allow you to view the surveillance cameras from a PC. It has some use, and it's one of those applications you install it and then it's there for when you need it. Virtually here has been useful to me in a few cases to applications to get me out of a jam. It basically is a service that allows you to plug a USB device into a USB of any of the PCs on the network and then share it through the NAS. That concludes this section on the basic applications to install. We're now going to move into the configuration. Oh, wait a minute, I did forget one thing. Very important. Once you've installed those applications, go back into Control Panel, General, System Settings, General Settings, and uncheck yeah, well, it's already unchecked. Okay, that's okay. You need to make sure that's disabled. Sometimes in an installation it's enabled, because if you leave it enabled, then you can't use streaming multimedia, which is one of the core functions of the system. That concludes this section on installing applications.